Michael Jordan is not only the best basketball player, but he's the most exciting basketball player to ever play.
Tatum fires away, pumps it in, 51 for Jason Tatum.
The Big Three NBA podcast is powered by Prize Picks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of the CLNS Media Network.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Big Three NBA podcast. Sherrod Blakely, Gary Washburn. I'm Kwani Lunis. Let's get right into it. The Celtics already broke their 11-game win streak in Atlanta. A sneaky win from the Hawks. Let's just recap what you two took away from that loss on Monday night.
Tatum got buckets. That's pretty much all that happened in that game. Tatum got buckets. He also got frustrated a little bit too. You see, Hawks, they were very physical with him. They did not let him get to his spots with ease, and Tatum didn't really like that. He still got his points, but you never got the feeling after maybe in the second half that the Celtics were in the kind of control we're used to. You were kind of waiting for them to just flip that switch and just blow them out. But the Hawks, give them credit. The Hawks made a lot of shots they normally don't make. They made plays that they normally don't make. The Celtics did. It looked for many of us who watched this team play, it looked like copy, rinse, recycle, repeat for the Celtics, where they jumped on them early. They got a nice, comfortable lead. Team got back in a little bit, but the Celtics went by 20, and that just didn't happen the latter part. So, Hawks, way to go, Hawks. Number 10 team got to win. Well done.
Got to keep it fun.
Gary.
Yeah, you can't blow a 30-point lead. The loss is, I felt, embarrassing, unacceptable, considering what they've been through this year, and considering they blew the 22-point lead in the fourth quarter 3 weeks ago in Cleveland. Like, and it's something they need to watch out for. I'm not saying this is, oh boy, they're not going to go to the finals. Oh, they're going to lose the first round. No, I'm not saying any of that, but you could just see it. Like, it was 68-38, and they were rolling. And then Atlanta scores literally 18 points in the last 4 minutes of the first half. You're like, okay, because they were inept. Our friend, Lauren Williams, came up to me when it was 49-22 and was like, see what I'm talking about? They're terrible. She was, and I was just like, damn, because they looked terrible. The Hawks looked like they didn't even want to be there. You cannot lose that game. You cannot give them life. That run gave them life, and then they start out the second half with a 19-4 run. You're like, wait a minute. Like, you can't be serious here. Like, that just can't happen. I don't care, and you can go into, well, the Hawks were more physical and they played stronger defense, but you got to win that game. And the Celtics hit 1 3-point. They were 1 for 15, and a lot of bad things happened. But when you cheat the game, you start pulling up for 30-footers, you start thinking that you're the Globetrotters and the Hawks are the Washington Generals, and that you on there to put on a show, and the fans in Atlanta are there to see you, and this is a team that's going to lay down. You start messing with the game will mess with you. And I felt like the game messed with them. 1 for 15 from the three-point line in the second half. Sam Hauser had a lot of open. He was 2 for 10. Jason turned the ball over down the stretch. Jalen takes like a contested 3. And then the Hawks just started to play well. They felt it. Bruno Fernando looked like Shaq in there sometimes. Clint Capella with that key. It was just a lot of bad things. It was very reminiscent. I was here in Atlanta 10 years ago when they blew a 27-point lead under Brad. It was like the 14-15 season, I want to say. One of the final days of Rondo, and it was just very reminiscent. Like, you can't blow. It's the biggest blown lead since 1997, according to the Celtics stats. That can't happen. And I'm not saying, oh, I'm down on this team. They'll never look but this is something they got to beware of. You can't use just tactical basketball excuses. This was mental. Like, this was taking your foot off the gas. Oh, we got this. And we got 2 days off in Atlanta before we play these chumps again. Oh, we got this. That was what happened. And the Hawks started playing well, playing harder, getting the loose balls, hitting threes. This Vic Krejci kid comes off the bench on a two-way contract, starts sparking them, hitting a couple of pull-up threes. Bogdanovic started getting, it was just the avalanche. So as much as well, it's just a game and congrats to the Hawks, and it's 30-point lead, man. And they scored 49 points in the first 13 minutes of the game. I mean, 49 points. And from then on, and they were, like I said, Al hits a three, 68-38. You're like, yeah.
That's good. We're done.
Yeah. 4 minutes, 23 seconds left in the half. And all of a sudden, the Hawks just started cutting. It was 18 at halftime. And it was like 18 is nothing in the NBA these days. And it's like, yeah, the Celtics had to feel kind of a sour taste in their mouth at the end of the first half. Like, man, we kind of gave them some life. Then you're like, okay, restore some order. Nope, that didn't happen. So everybody's involved. Joe, Jason, Jalen, the bench. They didn't get a lot of production from Hauser. They didn't get a lot of production from Al. It just Porzingis had his moments, but and Atlanta had 15 offensive rebounds. Capella and Bruno were allowed to really man the paint. So a lot of things just to watch out for as they move forward, especially with taking their opponents lightly and up here, doing the mental breakdown and you got to be mentally tougher than that. You got to be mentally tougher than that.
You should be mentally tougher than that. But Gary, the way this team has played this year, they were way overdue to have a game or two or three like that this year. And they've had a couple. But the one common thread that they've had in those games is the teams that have done this to them. I'm thinking of this one, and I'm thinking of the Cleveland game. The common thread between those two things, other than being in the East, is that they were without their best player. Each of those teams did play without their best player. And the Celtics, and this was an issue that we've had with them in the past, and we've seen it time and time and time again, way more than we have this year. In the past, we've seen it where they don't just let up off the gas. They just basically let off the steering wheel and the gas, and they just rolling down the street with no control over what is happening in that moment. And we saw it in Cleveland. We saw it against Atlanta, who was playing without Trae Young. And I agree, that concerns me, their inability to recognize a wounded team and just bury them. That I am concerned about. But when they played teams that weren't great, but that great team had most of their core guys, they treat them with the kind of respect they deserve, and that's smash them to itty bitty pieces. But when teams are maybe average or slightly below average and they're missing a core guy, those are the games that they need to be better at. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, they're going to see a lot of those teams down the stretch here. I'm to be honest, I've been surprised at how well they've handled their business on this road trip, because most of the teams they're playing are trash. If we're going to be honest and real about it.
Even your Pistons?
As I said, most of the teams that they're playing are trash on this road trip. If we're being honest,
wow, Sherrod, they ain't gonna let you back in Detroit, man.
Oh my goodness! For speaking the truth.
Wow, yeah, that's where we at as a nation right now. Speaking the truth, get us in trouble.
Exactly. You know how the D is. Anyway, I do. But my point, I think my point is this: it's not letting it's not recognizing the slide. Right. That's the Celtics. It began in the end of the first half when you thought you had the lead. You thought you had this game. You were ready to, they had a scheduled team dinner after the game at a nice steakhouse, local steakhouse.
They were running late on time.
They were like, let's get the hell up out of here.
Get some shrimp out here and get this game over with. Yeah, some shrimp.
And they had a nice team dinner scheduled. So Damon Stoudemire, their former assistant, is there watching them play. I'm sure he wants to, break bread with the guys. It's all good. They're feeling great. And then the slippage. And the question is not blowing leads, guys. It is what you do when you start seeing that slippage. Yeah. The end of the first half was slippage. You get
Is that
out.
on the players or the coach?
You allow 38 points in the first whatever minutes, 20 minutes of the game, 18 in the last 4. Like, that's a problem. What did they make those halftime adjustments? Did they say, okay, we don't like what happened? Hey guys, like, we don't like what happened. You should want to make your night easier. Blow these dudes out, take the fourth quarter off. We got an early night, hit the showers, do your little media obligations, and get to dinner or whatever you want to do in the ATL. Whatever is out there, plenty out there. It's an ATL. So
is that more on Joe?
Huh?
Is that more on Joe?
I think it's more on Joe, and it's and people they didn't have a point guard, Derek. They were missing Trae Young. They were missing Jalen Johnson. They're missing a Kwani. Like, come on, like, you can't keep blaming. Like, you're missing guys, but they're missing guys too. Mm-hmm. And they're starting a two-way guy. They're playing Bruno Fernando, who couldn't get on the court in Boston. Like, you know, and I'm not saying Bruno's he's gotten better. He's a force when he gets in the paint, you know, because he's big and he's strong. But it's like you're playing against their lower guys. You know, DeAndre Hunter's a very good player, but he was not. He all of a sudden turned it on. You know, DeJounte Murray, he had, like, you know, I think 22. DeJounte Murray didn't go for 40. He had like 22.
19 and 15, man.
Yeah, like, he wasn't just like, oh man, that dude just put the team on his back. Like, to me, it's not doing anything about the slippage. Teams make runs. No, man, like, put them out of their misery. Even if you're up 30 and you go at the end of the last 4 minutes, y'all go 10-10. You're still up 30. You get outscored 18-6. You allow 18 points. That's a concern. And then what happened I remember I said, okay, let's see how they come out in the third quarter. Third quarter, Atlanta calls an action. The first play of the third quarter, and I think Capella got an easy dunk. And I'm like, yeah, it's this game is going to be competitive. That cut it to 16. And you're like, yeah, that was too easy. Like, they just came out, whatever the first play of the second half, Capella dunk. Yep.
I love sound effects here.
Yeah, exactly, Sherrod. You know, you're a master. So I saw the first play. That's when I knew that this was going to be the first play of the second half, when they ran a quick, easy play dunk, and you're like, okay, Celtics, like, wake up. What's going on here? Get some stops. Hit the boards. You know, and it wasn't the three-point shooting. The three-point shooting was bad. 1 for 15 in the second half. They didn't take 75 threes. It wasn't, I'm not going to turn around, it was the threes. But, you know, you're 1 for 15, and if they hit 11 and you hit 1, you're asking to get beat. And that's what happened in the second half. Atlanta got hot, but you got to, before the drip turns into the hole gets bigger and it turns into a flood, you got to stop that up. And that's what I blame. I don't blame them for the fourth quarter and it's competitive and plays happen and all that. You shouldn't even let it get there.
Football season may be over, but the action on the floor is heating up. Whether it's a tournament season or the fight for a playoff home court, there's no shortage of high-stakes basketball moments this time of year. Get in on the excitement with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, where you can turn your hoops knowledge into serious cash. Testing my skills on Prize Picks this season is the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $1,000 with just a few taps. Prize Picks is really simple to play, and I can make my picks and submit my entry in less than 60 seconds. Download the app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Use the code CLNS for the first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
Thinking about other areas of concern, Jrue Holiday still out with his arm. Are you too concerned about the fact that he's still out? But also, is there a possibility that this could become a Malcolm Brogdon 2.0 situation?
I'm concerned. I mean, I'm not ready to hit the panic button yet, but I'm definitely
Hands
concerned.
hovering.
I'm like, because here's the thing. I mean, when you look back at last season, not having the kind of fairy tale ending the Celtics 1-2, you can go through a bunch of reasons. But when you have the best sixth man in the league and he plays at the level that Malcolm did because of his health, and you come up short, that was a big deal and why your season ended when it did. Now, Jrue Holiday has been great this year. I mean, you start looking at him, particularly from the corner three spot. I mean, he's the best in the league. You look at the experience. You look at the to me the wild card of all wild cards with Jrue Holiday. He the only one in your rotation with a chip. He the only one who knows what this journey to the end of the line looks like and be the last team standing. And you want guys with that experience. You want guys with that talent and ability to be in the mix because when things get a little grimy, get a little dirty, and it gets real tight, he's the one guy you ain't worried about getting tight because he's been there, done that, achieved that. And so his health does concern me. I do like the fact that the Celtics are, they're not trying to rush him back. And to be frank, I don't think they could, even if they wanted to. I think this injury I think he's like legitimately not playing because he legitimately can't play, as opposed to a load management type of situation. So yeah, I'm concerned. Because hell yeah, I'm very concerned about this because as much as we talk about Porzingis as being an X factor, having a guy that does all the things that Jrue Holiday can do, and more importantly, is comfortable stepping to the backdrop, letting everyone else get to shine. But every now and then, there's going to be a game where you're going to need your best on-ball defender to play like All-Star Jrue, which we've seen him capable of doing on any given night. To know that he's not going to be able to do that, and that's assuming that this injury doesn't heal properly, that's concerning because that means you're not going to go into the playoffs being the best version collectively that you can be.
Yeah, I'm not as concerned probably as Sherrod. I mean, talking to him yesterday in terms of Jrue Holiday, I think he seems like he's close now. When will they bring him back? Will they bring him back on this trip? It sounded like something he's going to need to monitor, though. He ran into Rashawn Holmes from Washington on the screen. He sounded like he damaged his AC joint, which did make his arm kind of dead for a while, but he was working out. It was his right arm, his shooting arm. I think he's close, but obviously the Celtics are going to be cautious. 11 games, 10 games left now. So, but you do need to get him back into the fold for some of these competitive games. There's going to be some competitive games coming up. Oklahoma City, Sacramento, a game at Milwaukee. There's still some competitive games left. The Celtics are still going to need to show something and figure some things out. Like the coasting thing and, rest everybody and let everybody, you don't want that. Not for 10 damn games. Not at all. You're going to you want to throw your lineup out there. They still play the Knicks, and those teams are fighting for playoff seeding and position. Sacramento's trying to avoid the play-in. Oklahoma City's trying to get the number one seed in the West. Milwaukee's trying to fight off whoever's going to be third in terms of Cleveland or New York. So there's a lot to play for those teams, and the Celtics have a lot to play for too. So I think he'll be back soon. I don't know about like Thursday or in Atlanta or Saturday in New Orleans, but I do think it's something he needs to monitor, though. I don't think he's going to be, I'm pain-free. It's 100%. I think he's going to maybe have to wear some type of apparatus, maybe, or just to make sure, padding, that when if he gets hit on that spot again on the screen. Because it wasn't like, we're not talking about, like Andre Drummond. Rashawn Holmes is a big, strong guy, but it wasn't like he got, like, Holmes just crunched him. Or, it was probably just the perfect place for the contact. But I do think it's something he's going to have to monitor. And so I'm not as concerned as Sherrod, but I'd like to see him get back on the floor and just kind of play some minutes and get back to what he was.
And to your point, Gary, I think the way this schedule is playing out, I'm almost reluctant to play him against teams like New York, teams that have something real tangible they're playing for, because you may see them in the playoffs, and he's the type of dude that I want to keep them guessing as to where he's at health-wise. Like, I'm playing him against the crappy squads. I'm playing him against the teams that I can play him 25 minutes and we win by 25. That's what, if I'm Joe Mazzulla, I don't want New York to get a beat on him. I don't want Milwaukee to get a sense of where he's at. I want them to be guessing. I'm trying to play chess with them fools right now. And Jrue is one of my pieces on the
I'd
board.
rather play him against top players than play him against some of these two-way guys who are going to be playing with their hair on fire and making plays and trying to getting dudes injured. Like, some of these guys are going to be out there playing for their lives. And, you play some of these bad teams, you get these two-way guys, you get these guys on 10 days, and they're going to be out there running up and down and running into fools, trying to get more minutes and trying to earn it. And all of a sudden, dudes get hurt. Like, it depends on how you look at it. Yeah, like, I don't think Jrue Holiday's got some secret sauce move that he ain't shown everybody that you don't want him to show against the Knicks. He is who he is. I do think, but I'm afraid against some of these lower teams, the Charlottes or whatever, that you got guys out there running like, who don't care, who are fighting for minutes. And so to me, but I do think he needs to come back when he's completely healthy, play 3 or 4 games to the final 10 and get himself all the rest and all the shoulder rehab. He said he didn't have imaging on it, so that's a good sign. It wasn't like they did an MRI or X-ray. And I think the Celtics, as understanding, are being very cautious with their players. They're trying to just get to the finish line, and it would have been good for them to get a nice dub in Monday. Then you can probably rest everybody Thursday, right? And then feel good. Now they feeling like, man, we got to get these dudes back. We coming off a 30-point loss. It was embarrassing. So I think now you've kind of made it harder on yourself. I mean, you can still rest guys, but you're not trying to lose 2 in a row with these guys, right? Now you want some get back. So that's the thing about making, even if they had won by 1 point, you'd say, well, they almost blew it, but they executed at the end. They did it. Okay, Jason, Jalen, take Thursday off. Get some rest. We'll see you in New Orleans. Now it's like all them fools going to want to come back and play, and now they're going to want to smash the Hawks in the mouth, and now it makes it more difficult.
Well, this will be my last point on this. I'm not crazy about the idea of Tom Thibodeau and Doc Rivers knowing that Jrue is not 100%, because when they play, they're going to run so much pick and roll at Jrue to test that shoulder, so much pick and roll. And so even though you're right, the two-way busters who just trying to get them
wow, hey, what you gonna call them, busters?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, these NBA players survive. Come on, let's call them busters, man. That's a low blow, man.
The two-way players. How's that, Gary? Better?
Kwani, what do you think of the word buster? That's not a compliment.
It was definitely
not a compliment. I didn't mean it to be a compliment.
Buster. What you call them busters? Go ahead.
The two-way players.
These are young guys trying to make a living. Go ahead. Sorry.
But Doc Rivers and Tom Thibodeau types are going to make Jrue's life as hard as possible in those games, because they know that, that shoulder, we know that shoulder is not quite right, even if he's able out here to play. So we're going to test it out. We're going to run him in pick and roll all day long. And even if we win the game, or even if we lose the game, if that kind of weakens him a little bit, we're good. That's my concern. I'm concerned. That's why when you play busters, they're going to try hard, but Jrue's a better player. Mm-hmm. And the Knicks and playoff teams like that, they got players that are legitimately guys you got to worry about who can do some things. So that's my biggest concern with Jrue coming back and playing against like the Knicks, the Bucks, those type of teams. I'm worried they're gonna intentionally play the game legitimately, but put him in positions where they're gonna test that shoulder out more than some other teams would. They got nothing to play for.
Yeah, that actually makes sense. Payton Pritchard, on Monday night, we saw him play 28 minutes, 15 points, a good amount of Payton Pritchard time. What do you two think about his development so far this season, and how do you think he can potentially contribute moving forward?
Go on, Gary. That's your Pac-12 boy. Go on.
I think Payton's played well. I think he's really played the best basketball so far of his career. He's really playing confidently. I'm really impressed with how he's running the offense, but also how he's scoring at the rim. He uses his little bulk. I mean, he's a small guy, but he's strong. You know, he ain't to be pushed around in there, right? And he can use that. He uses his crafty moves to get to the rim, get to the layup. You know, he had a couple of, he brought back single-handedly when the Hawks cut it to 3. He made, I think, 2 or 3 hoops in a row to kind of extend it back to 11, even though the Celtics lost a lead again. But I've been impressed with how he's played. I think this has been a really breakthrough season for him. You know, I think we all kind of wondered what's going to happen with him. And I don't think that personally Payton got done right either. Like, he played that rookie year under Brad. He was in the rotation. Ime comes and just like, dog, I don't like you. Not like you personally. I don't like what you bring. You're not going to play much. You know, I don't know.
You're a buster.
Like it was they had Portland ties. So I'm not saying Ime didn't personally like Pritchard. Don't say that. But he just didn't like what he must have brought to the court because his playing time decreased. And then last year, Joe's sliced it even almost further, right? So you're after 3 years, you're like, okay, well, where is he going? What does he bring to the team? And then he admitted last year he wanted to be traded. He wanted a new opportunity. He wanted to hoop. It didn't happen. And then this year he signs the extension and then gets a shot and has done really well with his shot in the rotation. His shooting has been great. His ability to score at the rim. So I've been overall thoroughly impressed with what Payton Pritchard thought, because I don't know if any of us felt what is he going to do? Can he fill a backup point guard role? Can he score consistently? And he got off to a really, really slow start this year. So it was like, okay, they give this kid a chance and he's not taking advantage of it. But he picked it up and now he's I think along with Derek White having one of those guys who just has come up and had a career year for the Celtics.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that jumps out to me about Payton Pritchard at this point is that he's the one guy at the beginning of the season who was in the rotation that we weren't sure would last and be there at this point. I thought his spot was very much up in the air, particularly when, as Gary noted, he got off to a slow start. But give him credit. I mean, he has figured out a way to establish his role, create an identity for himself with this team. And those are things that he either did not do previously or he didn't get an opportunity to do. And this is a year where all the stars have aligned and have allowed him to be a guy that steps on the floor, and you're not thinking that he's on the floor so that someone else can get a rest. You're thinking he's on the floor because he can help this team win some games and do some things. He's answered a lot of the questions about his game and how it will relate to the Celtics team, specifically on defense. The thing about Payton, he ain't locking nobody up, but he's not a defensive liability either. He's not a two-way buster or anything like that. So that's the word of the day, two-way buster. He's a good player. Payton he's legitimately a good player, a player who, when you look at what he's contributing to this team and you look at his contract, he's one of the best bargains on this team. I look at him and Derek White, two of the best bargains you'll find in the NBA right now for what they do on a team that's really good. But the challenge now is, can you maintain that level of impact, and not the scoring and assist and all that stuff, but just impact? Can you maintain that in the playoffs? Because his minutes aren't going to be as, I think, robust or abundant as they are now, unless Jrue's injury is, a little bit more serious or severe than we think. But can he still nonetheless make a difference when he's in the game? And that's the next level for Payton Pritchard at this point. Because everything he's done right now, he's checked up all the boxes that you want for a backup point guard on the roster that's really good. But can he do it in the playoffs?
All right, before we close out, it's time for our favorite segment.
It's
checking
your
on
favorite segment,
Ed.
Kwani.
No, you admitted that you wanted to do this segment this week.
I wanted to do it, one, because I think it's fun, two, because you like it, and three, it always makes Gary just kind of rub his face
Cringe.
like, damn, why am I I didn't sign up for this.
It's relevant though. We're
Y'all
talking
treat
about
me
Grant
like I'm
Williams.
Payton Pritchard. Y'all treat me like I'm Payton Pritchard. This is what I
Oh
signed
my
up for.
God. Well, this X is not a two-way buster. It's Grant Williams. He signed with Dallas in the offseason, which traded to Charlotte, as we know, which will be the team that Boston plays at the end of this road trip. Hornets not doing too well right now, but he's figured out his role specifically in Charlotte. 13.2 points per game right now with that team. So, have you been following Grant? What should we be looking forward to when the Celtics and Grant Williams reunite as well?
Grant's been quiet. He's been a lot quieter in Charlotte than he was in Dallas, and he was in Boston. To me, that means he's reading the room. Mm-hmm. He is recognizing that, you know what, let me let's just keep it on the court, and I'll do some funny stuff in the interviews, but I'm not necessarily gonna be that guy. I mean, when Mike Gorman claps back at you, that's like, whoa.
That's a good point, actually.
Whoa.
I was surprised.
That was very surprising. So I think Grant's figuring it out. And I think he's a legitimate NBA player. I think he's a guy that you're talking about top 7, top 8. I think he's good enough to be one of those guys on a really good team. In Charlotte, they're not a really good team. They need him to be more than just that. And he's averaging, I think, close to 30 minutes a game. Shooting, I think, close to like 49% from the field, averaging on the north side of 13 points since he's been in Charlotte. He's having a good year. But you always have to put it in the framework of he's having a good year on the third worst team in the Eastern Conference.
And if I could quickly add, for those who don't know the context, Grant Williams was called out by Mike Gorman as like annoying, a bad locker room guy. And Jason Tatum actually went on Twitter, now X, to just say he wasn't a bad locker room guy. He was a great teammate, but that still resonated with a lot of people because if Mike Gorman is calling you out, the man doesn't call people out ever.
That's so not his MO.
There has to be some truth to what he said, or someone thought he was annoying. So
I don't think even Mike would say he was a bad guy, but he did talk a lot.
Yeah,
Grant does talk a lot, and Grant knows he talks a lot. When we're around him in the locker room and on the court, he flaps his gums a lot. One of the most memorable moments that Grant probably doesn't want to remember is against Cleveland, where he was flapping them gums, went to the free throw line. Missed free throw 1. Missed free throw 2. They lose the game. So I'm a big fan of Grant. So I think, like I said, I think he's a good NBA player, not a great one, but a good one. And sometimes you got to do you got to make some mistakes in order to figure out how to build a career with longevity in this league. And I think he's made some mistakes, but I think he's figuring it out too. What you got, Gary?
I mean, I'm just tired of all the Grant hate. It's ridiculous. Like, you know, he doesn't do anything off the floor. He's a part of the player association. He talks. So what? Like, we accuse young people of not talking and only talking in certain languages or only talking to people that they know or only talking about one subject, or we accuse. And then Grant was always a great guy to cover in terms of, with the media. And I'm going to be perhaps biased here. He was great to us. He was open, honest. He was talkative. How you doing? You know, called us by our name, had respect for us. Like, you know, there's players that we cover that don't even act like they know our name and been around 8, 9, 10 years, you know? And to me, so what? He talks a lot. Yeah, he does. He talk a lot. Yeah, could it be annoying? But to me, for people to hang him out to dry and you know, for calling a bad teammate, you know, and that's a lot to say. I can't say if I was not someone's teammate, it's hard for me to say that they're a bad teammate. Was he a teammate to you? Well, no, but I heard that you know, like, it's just like, come on, like, if you don't know, you like, I'll go as far with Grant. He's talkative. Does it probably annoy people? Of course. But this whole like when Michael Finley, oh, well, he was talking mess to Luka in practice, and Luka went like, don't people talk mess at practice all?
That's basketball.
Like, why are you like you don't just throw the young kid? Grant's 25 years old. Like, you just gonna throw a young kid under the bus like that and be like, oh, he talked to Luka. You know how many practice fights I've covered, dudes throwing hands at practice, dudes having arguments at practice, walking out of practice, and we're gonna talk about a dude talking stuff to the star player. Oh, Luka got mad, so Luka went off on him and scored 20 points in a row. That shows you, like, don't mess with Luka. Like, everybody's been trying to get Luka to play and be in better. He's an amazing player, to be in better shape and not complain. Like, it's not like Luka's a perfect player. It's not like it's not like he's Kobe or LeBron. Like, he's had his faults too. So, I mean, I just think hopefully in Charlotte, Grant can find a place where it's home. I don't think it didn't work out in Dallas. He didn't play great. He wasn't always the thing I point out, people have pointed out about him, I've heard, is like he wasn't always in great shape in Boston. He wasn't always in great shape, and he didn't show up in great shape in Dallas. And that's something that, like, that's a legitimate gripe if you're going to complain about Grant. But talking too much, he talks to Jason now. Like, him and Jason are still, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a bond there. I mean, it's just to turn around and act like he was out there just. We've seen, and especially Sherrod, you covered the league a long. We've seen dudes who are locker room cancers. Mm-hmm. We've seen guys who are just like, yeah, that ain't a good dude. Like, he's not a good teammate. We've seen in our regular lives people that just, when you're around them, you can feel like, I can only be around. Yeah, I can only be around this person. I am not going to hang with this person any extra time. I can only be in groups or settings. I'm not going to like, oh, what are you up to? Let's hang out. Like, you just know that they're not great people. They don't bring a good, positive energy.
Two-way buster vibe. That's what you get, that two-way buster vibe.
Yeah. To me, I always got a positive energy from Grant. I didn't get negative. What he told Donovan Mitchell he's going to hit 2 free throws. He missed them. It happens. Or, oh, he poked the bear against Miami and talking to Jimmy Butler. He was the only one who stood up. He's the only one in that series who stood up and said, F you, Jimmy. I'm dropping buckets too. Maybe if they got more of that, they'd have won a damn series. So, like, and as much as I get it, he talks a lot. So what? I'd rather have somebody talk a lot or talk to me than nothing at all. And so, like, I'd rather have a personable personality. He's a smart kid, maybe too smart for too smart for his own good. They've said it about other people. Oh, he's too smart. Oh, he feels like he knows so much. Maybe he does.
That's cool.
Grant was going to commit to Harvard. He was like, his mother wanted him to play at Harvard before.
I've been around the game long enough to know when cats are being talked about as being too smart, that's code word for something that's another conversation for another podcast.
A whole other conversation.
Yeah, he was going to, before he committed to Tennessee, he was thinking he was literally going to commit to Harvard.
I know.
So Grant's a smart guy, and maybe too smart for his own good, or maybe he does talk too much for his quote unquote talent. But I just think it's messed up that people are just coming at him like he's a bad guy, and he's not a bad guy. It bothers me a lot. This kid's 25 years old. And I'm just not gonna I'm not 20. I'm old. I'm slightly older than 25. I'm not coming at I'm not coming at somebody who's young enough to be my son or in their 20s and just MFing them, for their I just think and you're 3 times the guy's age and you're MFing the guy like why? What purpose does that do to throw someone under the bus like that? Unless the person's just legitimately a bad guy.
Yeah.
Grant is not a bad guy. That's the thing that's what pisses me off. It's like he talks too much. So what? We know plenty of people who talk a lot. People, okay, if I catch them in a conversation, I'm gonna have to
meeting at 10.
Oh man, I gotta roll because they're gonna talk your ear off. Does that make them a bad person? No, they just talk a lot. And sometimes you're ready for it. Sometimes, you know what? I'm ready for a 20-minute conversation. Other times you're like,
not today.
Damn it, I got to roll. I'd love to talk. You got to figure it's okay.
I left my wallet. I got to run and go get my wallet.
Yeah, damn. What
do you need your wallet for? Everything's free.
Yeah, that's what happens. Like, does that make the person a bad person? Does that make them a bad teammate? Like, I'm just tired of the Grant hate. Like, because I think he's a good kid, and he's trying to get it. And as much as we deal with dudes that are really not good people over the years, people that are out there just doing not good things off the floor, who are all about just getting paid and quite putting up their numbers and don't care about winning and all those. And there's a lot of guys in the league like that. To point out Grant as like some kind of like, bad guy or bad teammate and then throw him under the bus when he didn't, I don't think that's fair. I don't think it's right. I'm just not going to do that. The kid's 25 years old. If he's got less, like Sherrod said, Sherrod's son's probably, he's 25, he got lessons to learn, but he's a polished, good young man.
Yeah.
Does he have lessons at 25? Did we all have lessons to learn? And I know Kwani, it was like 3 years ago. But do we all have do we all have lessons to learn?
Well,
do we all have are we a finished product at 25? No. Do we still have life lessons to learn? Of course. Are we still in the midst of the process? Yes. So let's lay off Grant and not make him out to be some pariah or some just a bad apple in the bunch, and just respect that he's growing. And did he probably make some mistakes? Of course. Did he probably talk too much on the team bus? Yeah. Like, bad teammate? Like, I just didn't sense that. I sensed in Boston, they didn't want to pay him $50 million because
understandable.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't want to pay him $50 million and because it was going to have long-term cap repercussions, and they found a place and they got a cheaper model in O'Shea Brissett. It hasn't worked out, but Derek White's developed. They've been able to move forward. So, I just, let's stop all the Grant hate. Like, let's do a campaign on that. Let's do commercials and ads and stop all. I look forward to seeing them. I think the Hornets come back to Boston before the season ends. So
April 12th.
Hopefully he gets some nice love when he comes back and some appreciation. But that was just the Grant hate and that was just unnecessary. If unless that guy's really causing trouble, and we know trouble, Sherrod, we know trouble, we know, some of the things that's gone on in the history of this league with teammates. Leave him alone on that one.
Absolutely. And you can contribute to the Grant Williams PAC that Gary Washburn is starting, dialing 1-800.
Stop Grant hate.
Oh, goodness.
Like we mentioned, ahead is one more game in Atlanta. They close out that road trip in New Orleans and then Charlotte. By the time we reconvene, they'll be back home at the TD Garden. So that'll be something to look forward to. We appreciate everyone that's listened to this podcast. Thanks for sticking around. Of course, if you haven't already, subscribe. Share with a friend that might be a little upset about that loss to Atlanta and tell them that there is hope in the future. So,
all the Grant Williams lovers out there, we here. We here for you.
We hear you. We're here for you, and we support you.
Exactly. The Gary Washburn, Grant Williams PAC.
Done. Solidified. Until next week, for Sherrod Blakely and Gary Washburn, I'm Kwani Lunis, and this is the Big 3 Podcast.